The Colours of India, with Jane and Adrian Lines. Jane and Adrian are photographers from the north of England, based in Wigan, Lancashire. They are members of Chorley Photographic Society. In 2017, they set off on a trip that started with a flight to Delhi, in northern India. After landing in Delhi, they set off on an overland trip to Agra, the location of the famous Taj Mahal. Agra is in the region of India, called Uttar Pradesh, and is a favorite region for tourists. It was also an opportunity for Jane and Adrian to explore some of the less touristy areas, such as gypsy camps, markets and train stations. Here is a short video clip, taken by Adrian, which hopefully captures the hectic lifestyle of the average Indian in Agra. You certainly have to keep your wits about you, whilst out walking with your camera. Adrian and Jane visited a small gypsy encampment which was acting as the local laundry. Another great location was the local train station. Also, the local Muslim meat market was a bit of an eye-opener, and not for the faint of heart. Here is a selection of photographs taken by Jane at the very popular Taj Mahal. Jane was really impressed with the quality of workmanship, even in small details. The Taj Mahal was built in the 1600s, by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, for his favorite wife. He was subsequently deposed by his son, after he nearly bankrupted the regional province. After a couple of days in Agra, Jane and Adrian set off once more to visit the famous bird sanctuary in Bharatpur. Bharatpur is in the region called Rajasthan, and is 100 miles south of Delhi.
जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना।
After a full day in Bharatpur, Adrian and Jane set off on the next stage of their journey, to Sawai Madhopur. Sawai Madhopur is a major town, next to the famous Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. If you've never been on a tiger safari before, here is a short video clip taken by Adrian of a tiger sleeping in a dried up riverbed. As you can see, they were not alone. After the tiger departed, so did all the other photographers and tourists. The guide said to Jane and Adrian that we should stay put, as it was quite likely that the tiger would head in our direction. Of course, the guide was correct. The tiger passed within touching distance, although touching the tiger was definitely not recommended. Adrian asked the guide, how many people get eaten by tigers in the park? The guide replied about a dozen, but added they don't eat the tourists as they don't smell like food. Adrian waited for the laugh, but it didn't come.
खुशबू तेरा बदन तू हाँ कर या ना कर तू हाँ कर या ना कर तू है मेरी किरण तू है मेरी किरण
Next to the park is Ranthambore village and fort. Like most villages in India, there was lots of activity on the streets. Whilst walking around a small village, Jane and Adrian were invited into a small dwelling by a local, and invited to partake in food and chai. Jane and Adrian were also invited by a hotel employee called Ram Singh, to visit his village and meet his relatives. This is Ram Singh, with his son and grandfather, and then with his wife and daughter. Adrian is never one to shy away from hard work. Here he is working the local water pump, much to the bemusement of the locals, as this is not usually man's work.
मेरे ख्वाबों की तस्वीर है तू, बेखबर मेरी तकदीर है तू, मेरे ख्वाबों की तस्वीर है तू.
After spending nearly a week in Ranthambore, it was time to move on. This time Jane and Adrian were off to the famous blue town of Bundi. As you can see, Bundi is famous for its blue painted walls.
जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण।
One resident was proud to show his British passport, from when he lived in London as a young man.
पर मेरी तकदीर है तू।
Jane and Adrian couldn't stay long in Bundi. They were on the road again to the next destination, Orecha. Orecha is famous for its ancient temples. Orecha was just a single night stopover. The following morning, Adrian and Jane were off to the next destination, Panna. Panna is another location famous for its tiger reserves.
जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर।
After nearly a week in Panna, it was time to start heading home, and this included an overnight train ride back to New Delhi. Adrian made a new friend with a street trader, who blew up a set of pig lungs, for his amusement.
जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, जादू तेरी नजर, खुशबू तेरा बदन, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण, तू है मेरी किरण, जादू तेरी नजर।
Although we have come to the end of Adrian and Jane's travel images, a couple of post-processing tutorials follow. When processing a street portrait, it is good to develop a set workflow. This could include separating the background and foreground, using levels and curves to add and remove contrast, and using selective dodging and burning on specific details. That workflow can add depth and impact to the final image. The raw import dialog gives you useful basic adjustments, although the results of your editing should be to achieve a full and balanced histogram to pass to Photoshop, rather than creating a finished image. In the example, the tonal range has been slightly compressed to bring back detail from the highlights. Once in Photoshop, you can use the Quick Select tool to separate the back and foreground, so that they can be processed differently. Once you have made your selection, you can use the additional tools in the Quick Select dialog to improve the edge of the separation. Once you have finished the selection, you can pass the result back to Photoshop, with the cutout being defined by the created and attached mask. This mask will allow further edge adjustments to the cutout, if required at a later stage. Now you have the foreground separated from the background, you can use a levels adjustment to reduce the contrast in the background. This separation will also allow you to selectively add sharpness and contrast to the foreground portrait cutout. You can then create a new empty layer, attached to the cutout layer, and paint in it with a low opacity black brush, to burn in highlights. You can also then create a new empty layer, beneath the cutout layer, and paint in it with a low opacity black brush, to burn in highlights in the background. You can create another new empty layer, at the top of the layer stack, but this time, it will be to create a controllable vignette. Mark out the edges of your vignette, soften the edge, then invert the selection. You can then fill the inverted selection with black. To set the strength of the vignette, you can change the blending mode to soft light, and reduce the opacity of the layer. You can create another new empty layer, at the top of the layer stack, and attach it to the previously created burn layer. This time change the blending mode to soft light or overlay. This will allow you to dodge and burn details in the portrait, whilst protecting your highlights and shadows. You can duplicate the previous process, but you can use the layer this time, to make finer dodge and burn adjustments, to the face detail. You can alternate between the use of a black or a white brush to dodge or burn the detail. Keep the opacity low and adjustments small. Building up the effect by building up the amount of black or white used. Once you have finished, you can crop to your final image size, by setting the dimensions in the crop dialog box at the top edge of the editing window. In this case, we are cropping to A3. Fine dodge and burn adjustments around the eyes, including brightening the catch lights, can make a big visual impact difference. The black and white tool allows us to create a strong monochrome conversion, taking advantage of the color tones within the face. Final adjustments to the image can be made by attaching a final curves adjustment layer, along with a levels adjustment layer. This will allow corrections to the histogram following all the previous editing. We hope you have enjoyed watching Adrian's workflow for processing travel images and converting to monochrome. Next follows a short preview of Jane and Adrian's Cuba travel lecture.